Hey folks, this is going to be a video for the COF enjoyers. I've updated my spreadsheet with all of the 1.2 prophecy information. So big thanks to Tunk with Tunk Labs for all of the data from this. It's already grabbed from 1.2. I'm going to quickly run through all of the changes, some of the new things, and what that will mean for the type of prophecies that you're going to be looking to grab. If you are a fellow spreadsheet enjoyer, please consider leaving a like on the video to support me making content like this. Let's jump into it. So just for a quick comparison, this is the 1.1 set of prophecies. One thing that I do want to point out here is that you'll see the disparity between the lenses. So the double use lens states that it gives 80% more favor cost. But when you actually look at the favor cost that it gives, it ranges from anywhere between about 67% all the way up to around 100%. So it never was actually 80% more favor cost. It depended on the prophecy you wanted, but that wasn't stated anywhere in game. I'm happy to announce that in 1.2, EHG has significantly reduced the variances on the lenses. So they're very, very close to what it actually says they do. And the same is true for the other lenses. The other thing that you'll probably notice is that the costs across the board have been reduced quite a bit. For a few examples, you can see these rares are around 180 favor cost per EXALT. You can see here we're around like 500, something like that. With the new ones, around 350 and around 120. So a pretty significant favor cost reduction across the board. And this is not just exalted items. This is pretty much all items. You can see here, unique items, 350, previously 500. So big improvements to favor cost across the board. And even with the increases with the lenses, it still ends up being cheaper versus 1.1. So that's really good news for COF players. The next thing I want to talk about is exalts versus uniques. So one point that I've always made is that the exalt favor cost relative to unique favor cost is way too high. I think that is still the case in 1.2. That hasn't changed at all. You can see, just as a comparison, exalted rings, the favor cost per item, we're at around 350. Then we look at the unique rings here, they're just under 500. Personally, I think that these numbers are way too close. Exalts should be significantly cheaper than uniques just because of how much more abundant they typically are. And now with the new imprints with the Weaver tree, you can actually target exalts quite well. So the value proposition for taking exalted prophecies, in my opinion, is even lower in 1.2. So in general, I think you're probably going to want to avoid exalted prophecies and use your prophecies for uniques, use the imprints for your exalts, which is what I previously said in my Weaver video. The next point I want to make is on exalts versus rare items. So if you're not aware, one of the COF rank up bonuses turns rares into an exalt. The ratio of price between rare and exalt is still pretty similar. So it is still cost effective to take rare prophecies if you want exalts, assuming that you don't care about the base type, because some of them have base types. So if you want, for example, exalted rings and you roll into a ring prophecy, rare ring prophecy, it's still worth taking that rare ring, but you're not going to want to go out of your way to only take the rare ones just because there's very few of these prophecies. So if, for example, you want exalted rings and you roll, you see rare ring, grab the rare ring. If you see exalted ring, grab that. The next thing we can talk about is the 1LP prophecies. So these have gotten significantly cheaper, but I think that they are still way too expensive to justify the cost. You can see here 350 favor per item for the unique weapon, 5350 for the 1LP, and this number would have to come way down for that to change. Another thing going into season 2 is the Weaver prophecies. So there's a handful of prophecies here for Weaver items. I think that they're probably still not worth taking. It really depends on what you want. They might be okay. I'll leave that up to you. The favor cost per item is quite low, so maybe it is worth it. And then another thing is the set items. So the set items are pretty cheap to get with prophecies. If you really need a set item for your build to come online, it could be worth taking the set items, especially when you have the COF rank bonus that gives you the entire set. And finally, we can get to the new stuff. So there are new prophecies for Rune of Weaving, you can see here. So these are new, but I do want to point out that the cost is very high. So you can see the favor cost here per item, $12.75, $8.63 respectively. That's very expensive. If you compare it to a Rune of Creation, which was the most expensive rune, it's only slightly cheaper than Rune of Creation. So I'm thinking that these are either going to be really powerful or they are very overpriced, one of the two. Then last but not least, we have the Weaver Idols. So you can see here we have Humble Weaver Idol, we have Minor Weaver Idol, we have the Small Weaver Idol, and the Stout Weaver Idol. The favor costs per item on these are a little bit higher than the other idols. However, they're still actually not bad. I think that these prophecies are going to be extremely high value. You probably will want to be getting a lot of these Weaver prophecies, especially early on. The affixes that you can get on some of these Weaver items are very powerful. They're going to be almost build defining. In some cases, they will be build defining. So definitely keep an eye out on these Weaver idols. All of them are quite powerful. And for the cost, it's most likely going to be a very good way for you to upgrade your character. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for today. I just wanted to make this update video on the COF prophecies. Stay tuned for more information on lenses and stuff like that going into Season 2. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.